Kaylee was like, "Hey, how'd that go with Phil?" And I was like, "Well, I signed a new deal. Essentially, I just agreed to a new deal." I had to call my agent the next day. He's like, "You did what?" That was how he walked in and was like, "Hey, everybody, Amy just agreed to a new long-term deal." And I was like, "Oh shit!" He just told everybody there's no going out of this. And
Hello and welcome back to Forever a Lion, an Orlando City podcast all about the people of the club. Here we sit down and we found out a little bit more about people who have been in or around Orlando City since the very beginning. And one of those people I couldn't be happier to talk with today. So settle in, grab a beverage, and let's talk Orlando City. Welcome to the podcast, Jamie Watson.
John, I'm so excited to be doing this with you. Of all the people that have been a part of this club since the beginning, and I mean the actual beginning, which we'll dive into. You have been there through thick and through thin. You know where all the skeletons are buried. I know where a few of them are. We'll uncover a few of those over the course of the next 30, 45 minutes, I'm sure. And this is a wonderful thing. I've really enjoyed the podcast that you've done leading up to this. So thank you for having me on. I'm excited for it.
Well, we appreciate you being here, buddy. You are, I don't want to reveal too much, but I think a fan favorite, right? There's a certain chant that always comes into mind when I think about your name. But tell everybody who you are and your relationship to Orlando City and how that all began.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to be a part of the club in Orlando from 2011 to 2013, so 3 seasons. We won 2 different championships. We won a pair of regular season supporter shields. Very proud of my time there as a player. We've got a couple of banners that's hanging up at Inter and Co Stadium that I am very, very proud of. A couple of trophies that we've added to the cabinet as well. And that's where my story in Orlando begins. But John, you'll know this better than anybody. The story actually for Orlando City has a beginning to it that actually doesn't start in the Sunshine State and the City Beautiful. It actually started in Austin with the Austin Aztex, and that's where I got my first introduction back in 2008, joining the Aztecs, and I got a chance to play there for part of the 2008 season, and then part of the 2009 season. 2010, and then the club moved in 2011. As you very well know, we all had to pick up and move from a wonderful city in Austin, Texas, to land in another wonderful city in Orlando. And I don't know, maybe we can indulge a story or two, if you don't mind, about some of that time in Austin, since very few people seem to know about it.
This is why we're here, Jamie. Indulge us.
Well, I mean, you know this, and we started out in some humble beginnings in Austin, and it was an interesting time because Austin was a good market for what it was at the beginning, but it had a ceiling to it. And I think that Phil knew that, and there was the ambitions to go somewhere bigger that had a higher ceiling, which Orlando has proven to have blown through that ceiling. But when we started out in Austin, I'll give you a story because I think you and the listeners will appreciate this one. Where Austin started, it started out as a PDL team. So the easiest way, if you don't know what that means, it's now essentially USL League Two. It's a summer league team where you actually have to be an amateur. It's an amateur league that helps preserve some eligibility for college kids and whatnot so they can play in it in between the college seasons. And I had gotten done playing in Real Salt Lake for 2005, 6, and 7. The 2008 season, I was looking for a team and I needed games. And I got a call from Adrian Heath, and Adrian was like, "Hey, I'm going to be the coach in 2009. Late, great Wolfgang Sunholtz was the coach in 2008, along with Bobby Murphy, who has a history with Orlando City that plays on later on in the story here. I got a chance to talk to Adrian. He was like, "Look, I'm not coaching, but I will be coaching in 2009, and I want you to come play with us in 2008." But the only thing is, it was really humbling for me. It's the most humbling experience for me in my career, and I don't tell this story very often because it is kind of humbling. There was a moment where, as a young pro, turned pro at 18. I had a lot of success, played in the Youth World Cup, played in college at North Carolina, ACC Rookie of the Year. I was incredibly proud of what I achieved, but I made the biggest mistake a young player can do when they're having success is I listened to what people were saying about that success. And I believed it. And I thought the 90 minutes on the field defined who I was as a person the other 22 and a half hours of the day outside of that. So I was a jerk. I was not nice. I was everything that I ended up hating about young players. I didn't want to carry the balls. I didn't want to earn the respect. I thought I should just be given it because I was good. Kind of dumb, really naive. And so to be able to play on that PDL team, I actually had to sign a piece of paper. And I'm sitting in the office with Alex Wolf, who Wolfie was one of the best team admins, heartbeat of the club. You know this, much like you and Kay and Wolfie and everybody else associated, you had to wear several different hats to make the team work in Austin. I'm sitting there with Wolfie and I signed this piece of paper that actually relinquishes my professional status so I can play in the PDL league. And it was like a proverbial rock bottom for me from an egotistical standpoint because I had to give up my professional status to play, but I needed to do that in order to get games. And I had a really good summer with Austin, was able to get back in with FC Dallas. And then I was able to go from there, play with Wilmington off the back of that good season where I was a USL League MVP, signed a 2-year deal with Austin. I finished out the 09 season in Austin. And then that 2-year deal was actually really important because the first year was 2010, which we did really well. And the regular season, not so great in the playoffs. We crashed out early. But that second year meant I was under contract when the team moved from Austin to Orlando. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to move at the time. I went kicking and screaming. I loved it in Austin. But then, sure as hell, I fell in love with Orlando, was able to meet my wife there, fell in love with the fan support, the community, and everything about Orlando City. And large part to this group right here, the Iron Lion firm, the Ruckus as well. You'll know them affectionately now behind the goal as the Wall, and they are incredible. They have always been incredible to me personally. And so I look at my career, 12 years. I really hone in on the 3 years I was at Orlando City as the most pivotal 3 years of my life. It changed everything for me, both on the field and personally. So, yeah, short story long, that was sort of how my connection with Orlando City, came into place. And I love being able to tell that story to you because I'm at that point in my life where I can't acknowledge that, hey, look, like it's not something that I was really proud of that I was at that point, but it was a point that I'm really proud of that I was able to hit that rock bottom. And then the trajectory of my life changed of being a better person, being a better soccer player, all because of my time with Austin and then ultimately with Orlando City.
It's interesting that you have that like retrospect now and you can look back and because like, I don't want to say we all knew that, but we all knew that you kind of felt a little bit aggrieved by the situation that you've been put in, right? What was it, 18? You got that first MLS deal?
Yep, 18 years old.
And it was, it was RSL and then down to the Austin Aztex. And then what happened after that? Dallas and
Yeah, so I finished out.
Charleston. There was so much for you
Yeah,
at that time.
there was a lot. It was a lot that was going on, but I think the cool thing about it was I remember this one moment with Bobby Murphy, who ended up being an assistant with Adrian Heath in Orlando, actually took over in an interim basis, and I thought he's still coaching now in Portland Hearts of Pine up in Maine. He's doing an incredible job there. There was a moment, and I'll tell you this quick story to add to it. I remember I was in that transition period of that rock bottom, but coming around and learning to not be a bad person. We were practicing. Not that I was a bad person. I just sucked. I thought because I was good at soccer, that meant I was just better than
young
other people.
And cocky.
Yeah,
it's a common trait of a professional soccer player. Man, don't beat yourself up. There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah, there's a reason there is that many people. It's this fine line of cocky and confidence.
A little bit
because you have to believe that you're going to be able to do something audacious at times. If you have a sense of rationale, you're probably like, oh, that's a bit crazy, but then you pull it off and it's genius. So I remember being at practice for the Austin Aztex, and this was Bobby Murphy was the coach, with the assistant coach for Wolfgang, and I remember I was mad about something. I was chirping at a player because I don't know, it was probably my fault, but I was blaming somebody else. And I remember Bobby from across the field in practice yelled something to me like, "Stop complaining. You think you're too good to be here, but you're not." And I sort of looked at him and I kind of gave him this look, and I don't remember what I said, but he was like, I can hear the echo still in my head. It was something along the lines of, "Stop acting like you're too good to be here. If you were good enough, you wouldn't be here." And I remember that hitting me like a ton of bricks. But it came from a place of love. At the time, it didn't feel like it. Trust me. It took a while to believe it, but it was that tough love. And I almost needed somebody to say that to me because the fact that was in 2008, and I still remember it as we sit here today in August of 2025, it was impactful. And Bobby would have never thought of it. It may have been a throwaway comment he was probably wanting to say for weeks before he finally said it. You couple that then with Adrian Heath, who, when he finally got to start coaching me, he was like, dude, I see so many things about your game that compared to when I played. Mainly, probably the fact we're 5'8.5" on a good day. I think that could have been the first one, but just sort of that way we played the game, it resonated with him, and we really connected. And I feel like I wish I would have had the combination of those guys coaching, and especially Adrian. He's the best coach I played for professionally. I wish I would have had him earlier in my career because I feel like I learned how to play the game of soccer once I had Adrian teach me it and drill it into us. And that Orlando City team from 11 to 13, John, I'm not just hyperbole. I think our system was so good and it was so ahead of the time that we were able to beat so many MLS teams, not because we were better than them, but just because systematically we were so much better and smarter, and we played the game in an attractive way that scored goals and it was fun to watch. And I think it was so important because it set off this really good first impression for Orlando of what Orlando City could be. And I'd like to think that they've gotten back to finding that way to attractive, fun way to watch it now in recent years.
For sure, but it would not have been what it is now without that, initial spark of excitement. And it's interesting you talking about Adrian being the right manager for you. I think that's 100% true. I mean, you in some ways needed someone to bring you down to reality, but also build you up and, be realistic with you and say, hey, you're good, but you're not that good. And I can show you how to be better. And also, like you said, stature wise, you guys are very similar. And he dealt with that, all through his time.
We needed each
Um,
other. We were good for
yeah,
each other, man. That was what was so
yeah.
good about it.
And I think it's wonderful that he managed to bring that team together and get you guys all playing in a system so well. It was so impressive.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And I loved every minute of playing with Adrian. Him and I still talk. He watches games, he'll text me and he'll be like, "Oh, you again on another call for MLS season pass on Apple TV?" And I'm like, "Don't you have anything better to be doing than watching the game that kicks off at 10:30 Eastern on a Sunday night?" And he's like, "Nope, I sure don't." The guy's a degenerate like you and me and everybody else that
Oh yeah.
follows this league, religiously. And so I don't know. I want to ask you. I'll turn back on you for a second. What was your favorite
Okay.
memory of that time period from when the club was basically run from your kitchen, essentially in Austin, to that transition in Orlando? Did you ever expect that it would turn into this?
I I suspected that it would grow and develop as soon as we moved to Orlando. I didn't expect it would go MLS as fast as we would. I thought we were going to be a USL team for some time, but I think a lot of the issue with Austin was just it wasn't the right time and we didn't manage to spark interest, and UT was there and there was just so much happening in that city that it didn't embrace it. And really for USL franchises, it really is about the right city in the right place at the right time, and we didn't have that combination right. But as soon as we moved to Orlando, it all just accelerated and went through the roof. And you kind of see that now with a team like Vermont Green, right? Some of these locations, it just instantly
Right.
works. And Austin, I had a really great time and it was an enjoyable time there, but it never took off. I maybe mainly remember the PDL stuff and just how it felt a lot more amateur
Yeah.
in that way, right? And because we moved to Orlando and then became, a championship USL club or USL Pro club at that time, and everything got a lot more serious. So in some ways, it was two very different clubs. But I mean, you and Miguel and Adrian and Bobby, those are the consistent people that really pass over from both. So I want to ask you, what is your sort of favorite off-field memory of your time with Orlando City in those 4 years of USL?
Without a doubt. I remember, well, I'll say it's off the field because it happened just off the field. We were playing in 2011. It was when we clinched the regular season championship. I scored a penalty that made it go 2-0. I think Jordani Alvarez had scored in the game as well. And we had won and clinched the supporter shield in a sense that day. And the off field moment happened when I sort of ran up the stairs at the Citrus Bowl at the time, right? Obviously, as it is affectionately known instead of Camping World Stadium, and jumped over the barrier into the ruckus, into the Iron Lion firm, and got absolutely doused with beer. I think the late Miguel was one of the first ones to meet me there, which was incredible. I love that memory, that moment. I came out of that a few seconds later, absolutely covered in beer, probably some ketchup on a jersey, and the referee was yelling at me about, "What are you doing? You know, you can't do that." And I was like, I remember saying, "That was awesome," and I got a yellow card on the way back. Didn't care one bit. It was the best yellow card, one of the best memories. It was caught by Austin Hiddle, who was on the video crew that day, who was an absolute genius, who worked with the Atlanta Falcons and is doing all this cutting edge work with the Falcons now. And man, we had so much talent on the field, off the field, so much heart in the stadium. So that was it. That was an incredible moment. That one, or when we scored against Wilmington 13, and Austin had the brilliant idea to put the dry erase marker next to the camera to sign the camera. And it happened to be at that moment in time, it actually switched from the camera he was holding on the sideline to the camera in stadium. So it looked like I was signing the big board at Camping World Stadium. That one was an incredible moment. That was all him. We had that idea and finally scored, executed it. Adrian Heath, fun fact, hated it and benched me for the Open Cup match against the Colorado Rapids because of it. It didn't go down well with everybody, but that one was a cool moment. I don't know, just my favorite memories, just seemingly, or some sort of interactions with the people in and around the game day experience and how incredible it was and how magical those nights felt playing at Camping World Stadium.
I think both those moments, like you said, on film somewhere, you can go find them. The Citrus Bowl, of course, had those like stairs up because it's an old
Oh yeah,
football stadium. I don't know if they probably are still there, I guess, but the actual stairs you can go up into the stands from the field. So that's what you're talking about when you ran up the
oh man, it was
stairs
incredible.
into the.
Yeah, good.
I bet there's still some Ruckus members who, and ILF members who remember that as like one of their favorite.
The whole thing worked in Orlando was because of the dynamic of the players and the staff understanding that Orlando was an incredible market that had a lot of wonderful sports fans, and in particular soccer fans, but just this real lack of professional sports because it was realistically only just the Orlando Magic that were there, and that was a team that, and this means no disrespect to them, but they didn't insert themselves in the community. They kind of just kept it at, I don't even say an arm's distance, it was an untouchable distance. And I think that was a big miss from the Magic that Orlando City capitalized on. And the marketing campaign of being able to put the magnets all around city to be able to put everything around was so genius because you couldn't always tell how you knew about Orlando City with the logo, but it was just always present, right? It had this ability of just continually being a presence in the market, and it was guerrilla marketing. I think Kay was the mastermind behind that, of let's just put car magnets everywhere and let's just make it a thing to where you can't stop seeing this logo. And it worked out. It was a genius move when it was all said and done. So I think just the buy-in of the players, understanding how to bridge the gap of the community, was so important at that time period, and it resonated, and people really felt like this is my club. And man, back in those USL days, you could pay $10, I think, for a ticket, and then afterwards you would come down on the field and get a chance to actually like hang out with the players for as long as you wanted. It was, I mean, wild west back then. Basically, it was you got a meet and greet after every game if you wanted to. You come down on the field, but I loved it, man. I was one of the last ones to leave, and you know that because you were also like, hey, Jamie, we've been here setting this up since like noon. It's now 11 o'clock at night. Please leave so we can go home. And God knows how many hats you wore, man. What? I don't know. I'll turn this on you again. What was your favorite memory of game days during those 11 through 13 period when we were at the Citrus Bowl, pre Disney Wide World of Sports and pre, MLS era?
Oh man, I mean, I had so many hats back then. I think it was, game day was really just like a help Alex Wolf in any way, shape, or form. There was a
Yeah.
couple of you remember Joe Ball?
Yeah, Joe was
Me
awesome.
and Joe Ball and James, we had like a whole summer where we did a lot of that setup and ops and stuff for game days. One of my clearest memories is eating cold Little Caesars pizza in the in the like dugout like entranceway to the
Just
locker
stuffing your face
room. Yes.
when you had 2 seconds to hide out. Yeah.
Like 10 minutes to like do something. We're gonna eat some cold Little Caesars and then go back out and pick up confetti or whatever it was. But yeah, I mean, game days were, because it was that skeleton crew, man. It was, yeah, you're wearing so many hats. It's so much fun for sure.
And you know what was so funny too? Were you like me, or was this just me being a cheap ass here? If you brought your ticket after the game, we had a partnership with one of the bars downtown called Ember, and you could turn in your game ticket. And clever promotion, by the way, because we all went there. But you better believe I had like 4 or 5 tickets that I would grab on the way out. I'd be like, you're going home? Do you have any extra tickets? Like, oh, okay, yeah, thank you. And I would go get a bunch of drinks with my girlfriend at the time, now wife, Kaylee. We would do that. We had a blast, man. Like, you remember those days? It was go in, get 3 points, and be out singing and dancing until
I remember
all hours of the night downtown.
Certain place on Church Street that doesn't exist anymore called Makers, I think it was, or
yes. Makos.
Yeah, I remember one time we had like one of the back rooms up there. Let's say that was a fun time. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of these fun nights out that we had. I mean, after the win, when we had the place up in Winter Park with the big party, that was a lot of fun.
Incredible night out.
Enjoying all of the holiday parties that we used to have. They were a lot of fun.
John Cocho, rest in peace. John just passed, and man, he was he will be sorely missed. He was a wonderful guy. I will never forget him dressing up as Santa Claus and then jumping into the pool in the full Santa Claus outfit. That guy always made me happy every time I was around him, and he was so instrumental. He was brilliant at what he did with understanding how ticketing worked and how to be able to get trends, to be able to get ticketing systems in place. He worked at USL and transformed every club basically with how they did their job. He was so good, and guy put up a great battle with cancer that ultimately, he couldn't fight any longer, and may he rest in peace, and thinking about his family now as we sit here and talk about him. But I can't talk about John without having the biggest smile on my face in those Christmas parties. Can I tell you a story actually about one of those Christmas parties too?
Yeah.
I had an agent at the time, and I'm not sure my agent loved this story, but I remember after the first year, I was out of contract, and I had gone up to Montreal. I tried out with them. Jesse Marsh was the coach. He was like, "Look, you're great, but I don't think we're going to sign you." He was like, "Go back to Orlando. You got a great thing there. Try to just enjoy that, because you're doing a really, really good thing there, and I know what you're doing, and that's why we brought you in here." And he's like, "If we brought you in, you might be a fringe player with our group, and if we sign a bigger name guy in your position, it's just going to kind of screw you over." And I appreciated that about him. But I remember getting hammered drunk at that Christmas party. Probably partly your fault, because you never let my drink get like below half full before you were making sure everybody had a good time, John. And Phil and I at the time went outside, both of us, and we were yelling at each other. We were hugging at one point. We were going back and forth, and I agreed to a 2-year contract to stay for 2012 and 2013. And basically, I might have even been a 3-year deal. Might have even been 2014 as well, before I ended up going up to Minnesota or whatever. But yeah, I had to walk back in that party, and after agreeing to the deal, and I was like, Kaylee was like, "Hey, how'd that go with Phil?" And I was like, "Well, I signed a new deal, essentially. I just agreed to a new deal." I had to call my agent the next day. He's like, "You did what?" That was how it, and he walked in and was like, "Hey, everybody, maybe just agreed to a new long-term deal." And I was like, "Oh, shit." He just told everybody there's no going out of this. And of course, Kay comes running over, gives a big hug, and I'm like, "All right, Kay, like, I love you so much." Like, "No, I love you." It was great. It was a great ploy to get me to sign a new long-term deal, just get me hopped up on some beverages, and then from there,
yeah,
I agreed to a new deal.
Why not do business at that?
As contracts go, right?
Yeah, I mean, no reason why not do it.
I don't know if I've ever told that story out publicly either. There we go. So I'm telling you all the good ones.
That's a great one. I love that. I mean, those parties were a great time, and definitely
great time.
Rest in peace to John Cottrell. That was some really, really sad news, and a guy that I had planned to bring on the show and then do this exact thing with at some point. So I'm very disappointed we don't get that chance to tell his story, but glad you talk about him here, because he was a special, special dude. I want to ask you on that same track about favorite people. We're going to start with favorite people around the club, and then you can give me your favorite player after that.
I love that. All right. Kay, number one. Kay
I'm
Rawlins.
just gonna rename the section to talk about K.
Everybody said that, haven't they?
Everyone says K. I
It's without
know.
hesitation. I
Yeah,
hope I answered
and
it the
it's not because of
fastest.
me. I want to say that out there. No one's trying to, be nice to me.
John, I love you separate of Kay.
They
I love both
all
of you
just
too.
love K.
It is not a package deal. It is not mutually
I appreciate
exclusive.
that, buddy.
It is 100% because Kay is one of the greatest human beings that I've ever gotten the chance to know. A heart that just grows with each person that she meets, a person that cares about everybody else, puts everybody else before herself, somebody that is, every time I think of her, I just smile, and there's never been a bad memory with her, and that's not a coincidence. It's just somebody that if you could say, you know, who do you value a friendship of? She's somebody that I know I could call with anything about anything going on in my life, and she would stop what she was doing and make you feel as though it may be weeks since we talked and maybe months. It could even be years. And I feel like Kay would still be the same person that she was every single time. So Kay Rawlins, without a doubt. And it's a distant second to nobody else's fault. Just that's how great she is.
All right, player, who you got? This is hard. You get the bull, but you played with some great ones.
I loved playing with everybody for different reasons, right? Like, Luke Bowden and I had an incredible partnership on the left side. I played left midfield and he played left back. We just understood each other. We were so in sync. When Dom Dwyer came on loan, Dom and I thought played so incredibly well together. James O'Connor, Ginge kept you to a different standard that just made you feel as though it was never enough. We were actually, speaking of wearing multiple hats, when Adrian and Ian would have to go do something scouting wise during the season, James O'Connor would take over the training sessions. And I remember being like, I hated when Ginge took over the training sessions because it was way harder when he did it. He was like this drill sergeant. We were like, please don't make us have Ginge today. Like everything that you wanted to make you better, but hated because you had to put a lot of work in. I mean, Rob Valentino was a leader, through and through. Great memories, obviously, with Miguel, and Austin in particular. And I mean, Kieran Bernard, he was hilarious to mess with. Cheney. I mean, gosh, Max Griffin. Who am I missing? I feel like I'm going to leave some players out. Guys like Struck, Eric Struck, who had a quiet role with the team behind the scenes as an admin after he was done playing. Sean Kelly was incredible. Man, I'm gonna end this and be like, oh, I should have said this name. I should have said that name. And so I apologize to any of the guys that I have forgotten, but I loved everybody that we played with. And we had such a good group of people. I mean, Adrian was incredible, but man, you go down the list, even in like the office, you, James, talked about Kay, talked about Wolfie, John. I mean, there was guys that were incredible. Stu is the training staff. He did an incredible job helping me. Stu Wright did a wonderful job. Katz, who would sell in the ticket department as well too. My gosh, I'm the worst friend. The front desk, who has always been the face of the club when you first walk in. Is it
Patty?
Gosh, I would have hated myself if I could not have gotten that out of you. Yes, Patty, just a constant presence. Like it's incredible. And all the way up to, man, nowadays, the Wilf family and how great they've been. I've gotten a real good chance to get to know over the last decade Lester Bagley, who does a wonderful job behind the scenes, as sort of the guy that does it all. We talk about wearing multiple hats. He does that as well. But man, I love what the club was. I feel like it lost its way for a little bit. And I feel like the club has its identity and its soul back. I know this wasn't where you asked the question. I've sort of derailed it to this, but getting the right people in at the top, I think, is so important. And that's what we had at the time back in, 2011, 12, 13, pre-MLS, and then sort of lost its way for a little bit, but it's gotten back. So I like a lot of people at the club now too. And I think guys like Luis and Poppy and Ricardo, they're all doing a wonderful job too, man. So every time I get a chance to go back, I'm just so happy to get a chance to see the people, behind the scenes at the club and that are doing an incredible job. And man, it's so cool. And it just makes me so happy to be able to be back and see everything at the club. And I'd be remiss too if I didn't, mention some of the people behind the scenes like Pedro and Dion, who do an incredible job on the broadcast side of things, that are trying to make it all work. Evan and Weston does a great job. And so, gosh, man, list goes on and on, right? Sorry. It was never going to be a short answer because I loved everybody with the club and it was such a great time. Anyways, back to your original question. Sorry.
No, I love that. You named so many good people there in and around the club, and I think also what you were saying about getting back to a lot of what we were in the USL days now with the new ownership. That relationship between the fans and the owners and the players, it's important, right? You got to have a little bit of unity there. If it's all separated, you can feel it.
Yeah, and I think one thing, a really cool story, and I don't really share this one either, but before the takeover happened with the new ownership group, I know the ownership group actually sat down with some people behind the scenes to ask what was great about the club when it first started, where has it lost its way, and how do you bridge that gap back? And I was blown away at that level of care, figuring out how to get this club back to what it was to where it is now. And that's why I will sing the praises of the Wolf family and everybody that it goes behind the scenes without getting the notoriety that they deserve. There was a lot of homework and due diligence done, not just at like the business side of it. That's way out of my league, and nobody asked my opinion on that, nor should they when you have deals that size. But there was a question about how does this club get back to where it was, and I thought just the level of care in that made me feel as though, I sat back and I thought, I wonder when was the last time that question was asked to somebody. When was the pulse taken of how the fans, the alumni, the people who care about the club and made it helped get to where it was today? When were they consulted about what's gone wrong with sort of this immunity to say what you want to say? And it's not going to hurt feelings because we need to have hard conversations to get results and changes. I remember being there, and I brought this just because I thought it was so important. It was so meaningful, right? This really cool scarf that we got at the 10-year anniversary when the alumni was brought back, and they were able to change the crest and everything to which looked incredible, and the jerseys and whatnot. But I remember being there with a lot of the players as we were sitting there signing autographs with so many fans around Enter and Co. and all the fun things, activations we did. And I remember everybody just feeling like this is what we hoped and dreamed that it would be when we first started out, and we first started realizing there was something special, and it sort of lost its way for a little while, but it's back on track now, and it's like now it's full speed ahead. Look at what the team's doing now. They are so fun to watch. Every year you expect this team to be competing now for a trophy. That didn't happen for a while after our era. I think it sort of was a pipe dream to think of trophies. Now it's kind of like, wait a minute, it's trophies. It's plural nowadays, and I'm so happy to see where the club is at now, and get to tell the story sometimes on MLS Season Pass with Apple TV. It's like the marriage of two perfect things for me, and so I don't know. It's hard to not get nostalgic and happy and reminiscing about times with Orlando City because it was that important to me, and it still has that level of importance to me.
Of course, now your game day is looking a little different. But back in the day, did you have any sort of Orlando City game day rituals? Maybe when you were a player, or later when you were a fan? Is that something about the stadium or anywhere that you go, okay, on game days, this is what I like to do?
Yeah, good question. I didn't have anything set in stone. I remember my wife's family they had a big family, and like my little nephew Jade, he was little at the time, he like played for Orlando City's youth team and stuff, and so I'd have to make sure all the tickets were sorted. That was probably my biggest ritual. Or like when my mom and dad would come in town and get them all sorted to get to make sure everybody was sorted with all their tickets and whatnot. But I will say I loved being the first one out of the locker room during warm up, because I loved that pop when you walked out. And David Ziemba, who has been the voice inside the stadium, DJ, PA announcer, everybody, he has been one of the voices of it. I can just hear his voice, the way that he would say, now coming out to the field, Orlando City, and just, how it would echo through, and everybody would get so excited. It was a really, really special moment, and it turned me to a different human being, a different person. I would just go into this different world because you just wanted to perform, you wanted to win, you wanted to compete, and the team was so good that You wanted to be on the field. You wanted to be one of the players that got to enjoy the goal celebrations, that got to enjoy the wins, that, competed because the team was deep. And if you didn't do well, you would be on the bench and you'd be watching it from a distance in a sense. So yeah, those are some of the incredible memories. And I got to give a big shout out now on the broadcasting side of things to just how good Jeff Radcliffe and Tom Traxler were covering the early years of Orlando City as well, and hearing their voices, and Jeff's battling as well too. And he's doing an incredible job with everything that he's going through, all of his treatments and everything. So I wish him the well. But Tom Traxler was another guy who was, a big supporter of the club. Scott Bates as well, man. Gosh, I'm sorry. Half this is going to be a shout out because I just start thinking about all these incredible memories. But there's a reason so many people have stuck around so long with this club, because it's easy to fall in love with, and it's really cool to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and that's what Orlando City embodies.
For sure. It's you talking there about the crowd, in that reaction and you wanting to perform well. I mean, your chant to the Jamie Watson, like I feel like that in some ways is one of the most iconic chants of that era. And even now, like if I were to shout that in the stadium, a lot of people would turn around. I feel like even the old guard would all be like, "Wait, where's Jamie?"
Gosh.
So did that used to just, I imagine that was like so cool to have that happen.
Yeah, it was the greatest thing ever. And
Need a little bit
my
of that ego
kids
that
will
you were
still say
talking
it.
about. No, your kids say
My
it?
kids will do it, and Jamie
That's
Watson.
great. They must have heard,
Oh
"Where did
man,
they get that
it's
from? Who taught them that?"
I don't know, but my goodness, man, it has been the coolest thing, and it's one of my favorite memories. It's something that I am so grateful for. If one person says it, if an entire section full says it, it doesn't matter. It's just an appreciation and love that you can't find anywhere else. Or just some days you feel like it's silly that somebody would care that much about you because you could kick a soccer ball, but then you also realize it was more of just they loved the happiness that you could bring them when we would win games, and you'd have that moment of it's built up and you finally get a goal that breaks through to get your team a win. And that's what I love about the fans. Fans can work hard all week to earn their money, and then when they choose to go and play or go and watch you play, I always felt like you needed to show your appreciation for people who did that too, because we all have bills and we all have different things that we want to do and how we want to allocate our resources in life, and some have more, some have less. But when you're supporting your team, the Adrian used to say this all the time, go out and play the same way any one of those supporters would if they got the opportunity to wear the jersey for a day. And that resonated with me. It was something that was so important for me to play with that sort of passion, and then to have that love reciprocated was so cool to me. Like it meant the world.
Did you enjoy coming back and being part of the 10 years and everything?
The 10-year celebration it was so cool. We were all blown away at the gesture to be able to have us all back and to feel so welcoming. We went to a dinner the night before where Kay just held court with everybody and was able to bridge the gap between different eras and everybody that was a part of it. And it was just so cool, man. And then to be out on the field, it was incredible. Heard the chant. I was like, oh man, it was awesome. It meant a lot. And I don't know. It's just I thought it was a really nice touch from the new ownership to say we're gonna acknowledge our past, because there was a point in time where previous ownership wanted to pretend like what happened to USL didn't exist. And I thought that was such a bad decision. It was so naive, because it is a part of your history. Whether you want to make it the focal point, you don't need to make it the focal point, but you also don't need to pretend like it didn't happen, because a vast majority of people that are Orlando City fans today were fans before it was cool, before it was sexy, before you had an awesome stadium and big name players that would come in. And I think it was disregarding what people poured into it before it became easy and fun and, like I said, sexy to support Orlando City and town. And so that was a really, really cool touch. And I know Kay had a big part in that. I know you were a big proponent of it as well. And we had a great time out going around downtown, didn't we? And like old days, I couldn't stay out quite as late. The tickets didn't work at the bar like they used to. Times have changed a little bit, but what didn't change was how much fun we all had when we got together. And it was just 3 years of my life, but it's one of the most transformative periods of my life, and a period of my life that I will never forget, no matter what I end up doing or achieving or accomplishing, it will be a point in time where I look back and say, I have so much pride and so much um, happiness thinking about that. And now watching this success, I'm a big Orlando City fan. I'm a big Orlando Pride fan. I love being able to call NWSL games as well to get to cheer the Pride on and MLS games with Orlando City. So for me, I have to put my bias to the side when I do a game, but yeah, when Orlando City score and the place goes crazy, it's the best feeling. Who doesn't love that? Or when the Pride get a Barber Banda winner and, stack on another win, or when Marta does what Marta does, man, it's so cool to see. And man, you've had a big part in this too. I hope that you have the same level of fondness too. And I know you do, but everybody is a piece to the puzzle. Every supporter, every fan, everybody that's poured into this club, every player, every person that's worked in the past, it's like a big 10,000 piece puzzle, and everybody plays their part. K's a corner piece, right? You can't have a puzzle without a corner piece. You got to have that, right? The Wilfs, they're another corner. They're the owners. They're the ones that make it all happen and pour into it. But everybody else is a piece to the puzzle for Orlando City. And whether you're that corner, whether you're that speck way out in the sky, it doesn't matter. You have to have all the pieces to complete the puzzle and make it whole. And that's what I hope that you feel. I know I feel. I hope supporters that are listening to this feel that same way, that everybody is important and a piece of the puzzle, and without you, it's not complete. And man, I can't wait to see what the next 10 years of this club look like off the back of that 10-year celebration. I think it only is going to go one direction, and we're going to be right there watching and being along for the ride, aren't we?
For sure. And I feel like I should give you my job, because you not only did you answer my last question, you also basically summed up what we're doing here with this whole podcast. This is exactly it. We're trying to find all those puzzle pieces and show people, more different point of views of the club that maybe they haven't seen, and highlight some of these people that have been so important, like yourself, in the early days, and are still out there representing us. Like, that's something I haven't told you, but every time I see you and Miguel, and even like the other ex players that are off now around the league, like Rob Valentino, et cetera, representing us and having been Orlando City people, that brings a huge amount of pride to all of us here and the Orlando
Yeah.
City fans. So
No, that means a
we
lot. Thank you.
smile when we're like, hey, look, there's Jamie. There's our boy.
It's
We
so
love
cool to
that.
see, man, and getting a chance to, even when guys were going off on different teams afterwards, even like Lewis Neal was going to score a goal for DC United in the Open Cup final. I'm like, there's my boy. Like, it's just, you feel this connection with everybody. And when Louisville City does something well, I think of Ginge and everybody. There's this long, tree and these limbs of what the base of it was Orlando City, and everybody sort of goes off their own different ways, but we have something that sort of is rooted into us all. And you're doing a wonderful job of helping tell that story. So keep going, because if this is your first podcast you're listening to, go back, listen to the other ones, listen to the future ones, because this is going to help piece together what makes Orlando City great today. Is a lot of these stories, and there's so many people from even before we even kicked the ball in Orlando, the previous version of the Lions, that tried to get things going in the past, and a lot of people that were helping coach club soccer and making it all happen. And there are people that are doing it now that for the MLS Next Pro side and the academies that are pouring hours into it, man. And it's so cool. And great times, even when Ian Fuller was getting mad at me and threatening to trade me to the Dayton Dutch Lions because I didn't pass it to him as he was a player coach. Even those memories, I'll cherish those forever, because it's a lot funnier to laugh at now when I thought he actually meant it in real time.
Yeah, you don't want to annoy Ian. Let's put it that way. All right, one final question for you before we get out of here. Can you remember any of your favorite spots around Orlando? Where are the kind of favorite restaurants or coffee shops or bars, maybe back in the day, that you really like and you could give a shout out to?
Tell you, every time that I go back to Orlando, I make it a point to go to Francesco's in Longwood. It is my favorite
Italian restaurant up there.
Incredible, man. Incredible place. I remember when he opened it up when we were still there, and I remember thinking this was awesome. He was so great to me. His son is playing soccer at Florida Atlantic now, and that's one of my favorite spots. I'd be lying to you if I didn't say one of the places that has a special place in my heart is Disney. I got engaged to my wife there. We got engaged there because that was 2 years prior. That was the place where we had a date together, where we sort of figured out, like, we didn't just like each other, We loved each other, and we wanted to, end up making something serious out of this. And I was only there because I was suspended for throwing a punch against the Antigua Barracudas in a game, and I was serving a 2-game suspension, and I couldn't go to Antigua, nor did I really want to after punching somebody. Hey, look, the guy they kicked off, their guys come running from the bench, start kicking at our players. One guy sucker punches Gio in the back of the head, Danny Alvarez, and he starts backtracking towards me. And I thought, well, you just sucker punched him. Here comes one to you, pal. Sucker punched him. One of 2 punches I've thrown in my life. Rumor has it he's just gotten out of concussion protocol. It was that good of a punch. But I got suspended.
USL Pro against that team before you, right? It's some punches thrown.
We had like 3 games on TV that year with Bright House Sports Network, and it was one of the 3. So the league called me that Monday and we're like, "Hey, you threw a punch. You're getting suspended." And I was like, "No, I didn't." They were like, "We have like 8 different camera angles of you punching in slow motion." And I'm like, "All right, fair enough." And then I got to go to Disney with Kaylee, and we ended up having a great day ever. Yeah, so we got engaged. Now we get to take the kids there and show them the exact spot. So it was the best punch I've ever thrown. We go to Francesco's on the way to Disney, and we have a great time. Those are my go-to spots. I'm sure I'll think of some when we're done having the conversation here, but those are the 2 must whenever I come back.
Well,
love being able to go there.
Thank you so much for joining me here on Forever a Lion. And thank you, Jamie. You have been awesome, bro. We loved hearing your story, everything Orlando City. If you've liked what you heard here, you can follow us on any of the places that you want to listen to your podcast. You subscribe on YouTube. You can drop us a like and a comment on the video. Just let us know anything you want to tell Jamie. Maybe just put a Jamie Watson in the comments. That would always be appreciated. If you've enjoyed what you listened to, you can give us a rating as well on Spotify or Apple Music. That's all we've got time for today, folks. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.